was confused. The idea of it's not confusing myself, my identity is in Christ. And I have chosen, with the help of the Lord, this is going to be my partner for life. And so
have patience, know. Yeah. How would you like to be forgiven? Are you, we're so quick to anger sometimes that we don't look at the other's perspective on things. Yeah. And, but then when it comes to us, like, why are you mad at me? I didn't mean it like that, Yeah. But when it's them, it's easier just to point the finger.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the LCI podcast. We are so thrilled today. We have our partners in crime. No, I'm kidding. We have our partners, our spouses with us, Justin and I. Woohoo! Have Michaela and Steven here. And you would think, why on earth, they don't want to be here. Why would they be here? We asked them to. Yeah. We asked them. We pleaded. We
pleaded
begged.
And begged. Crawled on our hands and knees.
Yes. And so we're so thankful that you could be here today. And the whole reason and purpose is we'd like to talk about marriage and relationships for just a little while today. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Big subject.
Big subject.
Could say a lot. So we'll have to be careful.
We only have a little bit of time.
We only have a little bit of time, not because of, other things.
Yeah.
But just let's start. So, Justin, Michaela, how long have you guys been married?
Well, we were calculating. It was coming on to 12 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're working on 12 years.
Okay.
12 years in October.
12 years in October.
In October.
10, 12, 13. I missed it. Should have been 11, 12, 13, but whatever. We had to do it in that month.
It was a weird day that week, so.
It was a weird day that week.
Would have been cool.
So we have been married
23.
23. I was just making sure he knew. 23. 23 and a half years. In September will be 24.
Mm-hmm. So there's like a 10-year gap.
There is, yeah. So I think this is good. It'll be a couple of different perspectives. Mm-hmm. Our kids are junior high, just graduated high school, and then we've got going into elementary school, not yet, but almost.
4 years, last year preschool. Pre-K this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we really don't have representation for a brand new married couple here today, but I think
we've all been there.
We can attest. Yeah, we've been there. I think that's
Long time ago.
Long time ago, yeah. We were just babies when we got married. That's what it is. Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure.
We were just babies thinking about babies, probably. When you first get married, that's like on your mind.
We weren't.
For some people.
Can you believe that? Like, I wasn't. We were like, no kids. No? Not for a while. Well, I was only 20. I just turned 20.
You weren't. He was.
No.
You were?
No.
This is new.
That's when we got Mocha.
Oh, Mocha, our dog.
There you go. That's what we did, too.
Yeah, we got a dog.
We waited a year, though.
Oh, you
to
did?
Get a dog.
Okay.
We did.
Yeah.
Apartment life.
Yeah. Apartment. That's what it was.
Apartment life. Hashtag apartment life.
Hashtag apartment life.
Yeah, we got our dog, and she chose him, and that was just all there was to it. And so then we tried to get another dog because I wanted kids and he didn't. And then he wanted kids and I didn't. So we ended up getting another dog. And then we decided we were going to have puppies. Yeah, it was great.
Well, now we're at the point where after this dog, I think we're done with dogs for a bit.
Are you?
Yeah, honestly.
Well, yeah, we'd had a house remodel because of your dog.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that was a different dog. That was a dog we no longer have.
Oh. I'm confused with all the dogs.
It wasn't taken out, but we were giving it away. I just want to clarify.
Just to clarify.
It could run more.
There was a lot of injuriness in that situation, but it wasn't towards the dog.
Hey, we made it through.
You know what? And while we're on the subject, so how did that work? Like with the two of you, what kind of stress and strain? I mean, so it's a situation where you're not home and your dog causes destruction in such a large monetary way. You're having to repair. Like, do you feel resentment toward each other at all during something like that?
We're on vacation and halfway through it, and we get a FaceTime. Our new puppy lab, was upstairs in our bathroom and chewed the line between the toilet and the wall and flooded our house. Kitchen was destroyed. Cabinets were falling over.
And our poor dog sitter had to walk into it. And so we got a FaceTime from the dad, and we're like, oh no, what's happening? And I was like, well, something is wrong with her. They wouldn't FaceTime me, so it definitely has to do with the house. And I thought maybe the house caught on fire. So we answered, and he's like, don't freak out, but I'm going to turn the camera around.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy, I'm already freaking out.
Famous
And he
words.
turned it around, and the whole ceiling was caved in our kitchen. and the water pouring out.
Because the bathroom was above.
At that point,
right
it
above the
wasn't like
kitchen.
pouring. I guess it was like dripping. But yeah, everything.
was-
The damage was
in.
done. And I think it was a testament to where our marriage was at the point, because there might have been a lot of frustration in the moment of the situation, but I don't think it was ever towards each other. We kind of gathered together. There really wasn't anything we could do. We were in Florida I was already having a miserable trip because it was July in Florida.
Oh.
And it was humid and there was more bugs out there than there are here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if I ever want to open a different branch for my pest control company, I'll go to Florida.
Definitely have the business.
Yeah.
But I think it was a testament to where we were at in the moment.
And we had been married for a while.
We had been married for a bit. I don't know exactly how long. Did we have kids yet?
No, it was
like
before
6
we had
years.
kids. I think it was like 6-7 years of marriage.
Yeah. Maybe that's why we were just so strong together.
Yes.
But it was good because I think we played off of each other really well. And
truthfully, we got a new kitchen out of it.
It worked out. God had his hand on it.
We didn't have our house from July till Thanksgiving.
Wow.
So we lived with his grandparents, which that was nice because we got to see them and their marriage, and I don't know, it was a good time to get close to them.
Yeah.
And I actually think it kind of made us closer together,
Yeah.
seeing that strong relationship that they had. So
And I think going through things together, it's kind of like anything. A trial and the burning makes you stronger. You're in the oven. You've been cooked
Oh, yeah.
to Arizona heat, and you come out stronger than ever. And so, for the most part, I think if you survive through devastating times in your marriage and you really hunker down and join together, there's a benefit that comes from it, a strength in one another to know that each other are there. And I think in trials like that, it really shows where your relationship is at, and it really shows how strong it is in the moment. Because I think maybe you can know someone and love someone and be with someone for so long and always have a perfect life and never have any devastation, never a flat tire in your life. And then something happens and you're like, wait a minute, maybe our relationship wasn't as strong as I thought it was. And we didn't put as much effort into it as we thought we should. Luckily, we had in the moment. It was really good for us. But I think situations like that definitely shine a bright light on where you're at in your relationship.
Right. Well, and you bring up a good point, too, because we did a survey prior to this podcast. We've had lots of information coming in on what people struggle with in their relationships and their marriages, what they love about it, what they hate about it. That might be a strong word. But I think what you're speaking to right now, what I'm gathering is when you're a young married, when it's been within the first few years of your relationship. Some people aren't married yet, and you've been in a long-standing relationship. You need to be working on it. Even if you feel like everything is going well, it has to be constant work.
Yeah.
I think for Stephen and I can only speak for myself. My husband is here. When he's not here, I speak for him. Poor guy.
That's
Even
why we
when I
had to
am
be here
around
today.
sometimes.
Even when you
we
are.
could have totally had the podcast just Miranda and I talking about it.
Just talk about you the whole time.
Talk about each other.
No, but I think we came into a scenario a few years into marriage where we were both just I was so consumed with what I was doing in the church. I was very, very busy all of the time. And at that time in our lives, he wasn't involved in the music department, and I was running a music department, and then he was running a youth department. And it became life. And it wasn't until storms came that for me, I was like, I haven't been working on this for years. I just assumed because we had such we dated all through high school. We had so much fun. We were best friends. It was just easy.
How long did you all date before you got married?
About 6 years.
5.5.
5 years, yeah. Because it was all of high school and some of college.
Okay.
So 6 years, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
you
did
grew
2
that
years ago.
base. We were very short. We had a very short dating.
How
and then we got
short?
married.
What's short to you?
I don't know.
From dating till marriage was a year.
A year, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
When you know,
you know.
Yeah.
And I already know. I tell people it was. I locked her in. She came to visit LifeChurch for the first time on a Wednesday night. Comes in, then while church is going. By the way, she was late. Just to point that out. And she walked in, and I was singing. up on stage, and
just
she
started
locked eyes
singing.
with
That
me,
was
and
so
it
it.
was drool instant, and it was
From you
all
or her?
her. Yeah, but the funny thing is, I saw, or she saw me actually. No, we both saw each other at a youth thing beforehand over in Scottsdale, and LifeChurch was hosting the worship of it, and I was up there with
a bright suit,
in a bright suit singing.
metallic.
So both times she saw me the first time, I was singing. So it was my voice or it was my looks, I don't know, but it locked her, and I had her ever since. But it was very short, the very short relationship. But like when you know, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when Pastor sat me down, and at Starbucks, Pastor Buffin, and he almost made me second guess it. I was more second guessing it when I left, and then I was like, no, I really do love her. But it was good that they did that, because it's like I feel like when you half know someone and you jump into it too soon, maybe it's too soon. But luckily, you know, I knew her and everything like that. But I think for us, the beginning of our marriage, one of the hardest things, and you can add if you want, but for me, one of the hardest things is we weren't as busy. I mean, we were youth pastoring. Actually, we were youth pastoring. Pastor put us in positions before we got married, while we were dating together, which was weird. But I think it just locked us in. It's like, now you're in ministry, you have to get married. But it was very short. And then, you know, we were in ministry there, but we had a lot of time on our hands. No kids, you know, no pet to deal with, no maintenance in a 500 square foot house. Like, it was lots of time. So we had a lot of time with each other, and it was learning each other. I think that was the hardest part, getting to know someone, and instantly, like now you're in the learning curve. You know, it's a lot different now. I think it's now that we know each other and we've had a lot of time with each other, now we have so many areas that we're involved in. My point of view is prioritizing time now. Now it's like, now we just need to take time on date nights. Date nights don't happen near as much as they used to anymore.
Yeah, you
even
have
though
to actual schedule
so
them
that's our
ahead.
problem now.
Intentional.
But it's a lot different when we were first married.
Yeah.
I mean, we had so much time with each other. It was learning each other,
Yeah.
learning who does dishes and who does laundry.
You just open.
Yeah, I
You
thought
just
I'd just
open the
throw that
can
in there. But what,
Those
like,
commitments.
Yeah, but would you agree with me on
Yeah.
that?
I think it goes from having all this time to now, like, okay, how do I manage my time to work on a relationship? Because like you say, you get busy with your ministries and all that stuff. Now, how do I prioritize things?
Right.
Because you can think everything's good because you're not talking. And then something explodes. And you're like, wait, I thought we were good. What just happened? But you haven't been talking, and now it's starting to come out.
It's like anything,
Yeah.
maintenance on a car. If you're not doing it, if you're not
gonna
changing
fall apart.
oil,
That's
eventually
exactly
your
right.
engine's going to break.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
So, for sure.
Yeah, well, and I think for newlyweds, wow, man, we were so young. I think back, and I know we're old. I get that, but I just like, why did
Speak
our
for
parents?
yourself. We're not old.
Why did our parents allow that? You know,
How old were you?
I had just turned 20.
Okay.
Okay.
That's how old I was.
I didn't know. I refused to be married as a teenager. We were going to get married when I was 18.
Okay.
I don't know if our parents even know that. We had
They do
made
now.
these plans, and then we both were like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's too soon." So we waited. But what do you think was the most difficult part for us that first couple of years, moving out of our parents' homes into an apartment together? So it's a total shift.
Well, it was a complete culture shock of
That's a good way to put it.
I've relied on my parents and lived in my parents' house for 21 years, and now mom and dad aren't there, and I've got this lady in the house that, oh, okay, so we live together.
Yeah. Like, why are you in my bed? I mean, it's weird.
Yeah, it was,
Right? When
it
you
was
first
kind of
start
just a culture shock of realization that life is changing, and the whole time of 5.5 years of dating, you don't really get to know somebody even when you're dating them until you live with them.
Right.
And she gave me permission to tell this story. So we were young marrieds, and I remember we were talking and we were doing our thing, and she tells me that she had been hurt. And I'm like,
my feelings
her
were
feelings
hurt.
were hurt.
Like
I'm like,
for a while. Yeah.
what? And she proceeded to tell me that when we would go to bed, I would roll over and turn away from her, and she was thinking she had done something wrong, and that I was mad at her.
Right.
Because he did it every night.
Every night. I just
And I was like, we shouldn't let the sun go down upon our wrath.
so
That's funny.
I'm like, no, I'm just going to sleep.
Yeah.
And she had actually
And
had
I
a conversation with her
blew
mom
it.
about it.
I did. I blew it out of control.
But just that whole learning process of my life is now, even though I lived with my parents, I was self-sufficient. But now living with somebody in my life isn't about me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's big.
It's not about necessarily what I want to do, but what do we want to do? And I was thinking about it driving over here. I still, to this day, don't understand how these guys or why they did it. But there was two guys that I had gone to high school with that were a year or two ahead of me, and they'd gotten married. Well, we were at the gym playing basketball one night. They're both married guys, and they're talking about having a sleepover with each other. And I'm like, you're married. Don't you go home to your wife? And that's what I was thinking. And to this day, I don't understand why they did that. I mean, they were friends.
I hope they listen to this.
They'll never hear
Maybe
this.
they'll answer your question.
But the idea of your life is not about you anymore. Your life is about being with your spouse and making sure that they are taken care of. And that was it was a culture shock. It was.
And we're not talking like a men's camping trip or anything like that. Like we're
No, they were
bunch of
talking
guys
about, hey,
went.
we
It's like,
play basketball. We're gonna go to his house and play video games all night. I'm like, okay, whatever. If I was married, I'd be going home to my wife. But to each their own, I guess. But it's still, to me, it was like, I don't want a relationship that it revolves about me and mine once, because there is not me in this relationship. It's us in this relationship.
Right.
And that was something that 23 years later, I still at times have to learn and think about, is it's not necessarily what I want, it's what we want.
And that's hard. I mean, that's hard for me. I mean, it's not easy feeling like I need to be independent and I need to be able to handle things. And I'm a boss woman, like I'm going to handle it. I am we, and that's still hard. 23 years into it, it's still hard, but it was definitely hard the first few years because I was so, and I think a lot of girls, women, maybe come into relationships like this. I don't want to lose myself. I'll have a relationship, it's fine, but I don't want to lose myself. And I was confused with the idea of, it's not confusing myself. My identity is in Christ. And I have chosen, with the help of the Lord, this is going to be my partner for life. And so I've chosen that by searching my own soul. I don't believe in soul partners as in SOLE, like this is my soul mate. I don't believe in that. But I do believe when I've searched my soul and I choose who my partner is and he's searched his soul and he's chosen me for life, we will be partners. And with all of that, it just started kind of making sense, I think, maybe about year 5, 6. I mean, it was a good ways into it that my life does not have to be all about, all the attention has to be me or all the attention has to be him. It's us. It's so hard to wrap your mind around that change. Mm-hmm. It really is. Going from newlywed to kind of newlywed. Mm-hmm. And then, you're good 10 years in, right? 12 years in. And I think now it's okay. So there's always the, I was just listening to this really cool podcast the other day, and she was talking about the learning space. So it's the space between knowing something and not knowing something. Okay. So we don't know how to be married. And so we get married. And then there's all this learning space to, okay, now I kind of know how. Pretty much all of our marriage is going to be in the learning space. There's going to be what emotions in the learning space? Frustration.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, vulnerabilities, irritations. There's going to be, excitement, but also, man, like hurt. Yes, all of that. And when you jump off the bandwagon because you can't handle the learning space, you are stripping yourself of the ability to conquer into the no. And so on a smaller spectrum, it can be, I didn't know how to respect a man in my life as my husband. And then, I learned that. And I learned that because he was learning to respect me. Those types of things. Sure. I don't know. What's the difference between being angry with your partner now versus when you were newlyweds? Like, can you kind of give me maybe something there?
Yeah, Michaela, what's the difference?
Yeah, tell us.
I wanted to talk it out. He wanted to go into the bedroom and just think about it for a little bit.
No,
and so that was,
yeah,
like him turning away from you. Okay, that's something in my mind. To him, he just likes to sleep on that side of the bed. And I'm like, oh, you're really mad. You're like walking away. Well, he wants to think about it so he doesn't say something that's making me even more madder than I already am. Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn to give him his space. And also it helped me learn I don't have to speak everything that comes to my mind like that. Mm. And so that took us a while. I remember when we first got married, I was like, no, we're going to talk this out now.
That never worked out.
No, because it made him madder. And then I was saying things that I shouldn't have said because I didn't think from his perspective on things.
Mm-hmm. As funny as that is, in our premarital counseling, our old youth pastor told Miranda, he said, Miranda, you have to understand, there's going to be times when Stephen has to go into a cave to process and to think about what's...
mental cave, not a real cave.
Yeah.
What's going on. Yeah, just to clarify.
Yeah.
But and that's what he was saying is you have to understand it's not that he's walking away from the situation, but he's processing it. Mm-hmm. And that's what guys do is we process things a little bit different. We're fewer words. That's scientifically proven. And so we choose our words. We try to choose our words. Sometimes we don't choose very wisely. But he was telling us that it's normal. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be... then he turned to me and said, now, Stephen, you can't stay in your cave forever either. You have to come out and you have to talk about it. And that was one thing that I think early in our relationship was really helpful because there were... with anybody, again, you start living with somebody, things are going to happen and there's going to be frustration. There's going to be like, why in the world? But you can't leave it at that. Mm-hmm. Because it's not fair to either one of you if you don't leave it. Like she mentioned, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. That was literally one of our main Bible verses as newlyweds was, okay, we're frustrated. It's bedtime, but what's going on? We can't, because...
We may not always come to like a compromise or and I hate to even use the word agreement, but there was no, sometimes it wasn't closure, but it was just, we're good. We're going to deal with this another time. I love you, even in the midst of
Making
all of this.
Making it apparent that this isn't.
I remember our first fight. We didn't stay mad very long at each other because I was like, fine, I'm just going to sleep out on the couch. And he's like, no, I'm going to sleep out on the couch. I'm like, we're seriously sitting here arguing over who's going to sleep on the couch.
Yep.
And I know you love me so much, you're not going to let me sleep on the couch. And we both just started laughing at each other because...
we couldn't hold a straight face.
No, we just started laughing at each other.
That is
like,
funny.
Why are we even fighting over what we were fighting about at the time? I don't even remember what it was.
Now I would love to sleep on our couch. Our bed is so hard. Like
I like a hard bed.
Oh man, it's like concrete.
Back problems. You gotta have a hard bed.
Oh yeah.
But I think for us, especially for me, like when we first were, I grew up where like there was a lot of confrontation when I was a kid, and so I shy away from confrontation. I can't stand confrontation. Like almost to the point where, like if any confrontation happens, I shell up and leave. Like it's just how I am. And because of this, like there was things that kind of bothered me, but I would never say anything, ever say anything.
Like broccoli.
Yes, and I was going to mention that. So there was it's not like a marriage divorce kind of thing, but it was broccoli. But
For a
I told her
whole year.
I liked broccoli. And when we first got married, she was looking for work, and so she was at home, and she made my lunches when I went to work. And so she would make me veggies and dip, and I love veggies and dip. And it just seemed like every single time I got veggie and dip, there's a lot of broccoli in there. And I couldn't understand why. And I finally got the courage to talk to her, because there for like, how long was I just eating? It was
like 9 months.
9 months. I can't.
Oh. 9 months.
So then I came to her and I said, babe, I was like, I really appreciate you making me lunches, but I don't like broccoli. And she looked at me and was like, you love broccoli? And I was like, no, I love steamed broccoli. I can't stand raw broccoli.
Okay.
He didn't say that. He just said my favorite vegetable is broccoli.
I know that's very small, whatever, but it just, that's kind of how I took marriage at the beginning, because I was like, there was things that, like, not necessarily that she did, but things that, like, in our relationship were something that I didn't see was right or was working or we needed to fix, but I would never dare say anything, not because I was afraid of her or anything like that. I was afraid of confrontation.
Right.
Couldn't
and you
stand
thought that's how you were to keep peace.
Yes.
Was to put all of your
But it did more
stuff
damage
down
than good.
because it pushes everything down inside.
It took a long time to learn that.
Actually, a really good analogy, because there are things that if it's not discussed, you will continue, and the animosity, if you will, the frustration builds. And
discussion in marriage is key.
You have to have
conversation.
You have to.
And in order to have discussion, like, I had to learn my way to communicate is so different than his, and not just because man and woman, but just personalities are different.
100%.
I mean, there's going to be people that are listening today and they're like, oh, well, I'm the man and I'm actually more the talker, than she is, that type of thing. In majority roles, usually the woman is going to be the one that uses the most words, but sometimes it's not. And so I think if we can look at it that way, that this partnership that we have, yes, it's important to communicate. Yes, it's important to discuss. So how do I do that with you? How do I communicate with you? I am under the assumption that if I haven't heard that we're in a negative space or a bad place, then we're good. And I could be doing things over and over and over that are detrimental to him, and I don't even realize it. And I think with maturity of our relationship, and unfortunately with age comes wisdom. In some areas, I'm still trying to gather wisdom in other areas, but it does give you a lot of clarity and ability to be open when he comes to me and he says, I'm ready to talk about something. And usually I'm like, oh, well, all right, let's do it. This is exciting. What are we going to talk about today? And then sometimes it's about something I need to work on, and then it's not so fun. But it's always so respectful, and it's, very kind. And the way he communicates with me, he's learned over time how I take everything to heart, and I just pull in, like, everything's my fault, and if we're having issues or detriments or anything, it's always my fault. And so I feel like over the years I've been able to really see things balanced for what they are, much more than before. And with his help, I'm able to say, okay, in this regard, this is actually not just me, but this is what you're part of it, right. And we can work together. Because he's saying, I shouldn't have said this. You have to tell me, that type of thing. I feel in my own opinion that's kind of the hardest part of communication, is the seasons that you live, you change personally how you communicate, and not maybe the foundational ways because they're ingrained in you as a child, but he's kind of shifted somewhat in how he communicates, and so I can't help but wonder, have I shifted? Am I communicating differently? He's not the problem, like, oh, maybe I'm changing too. And so, constantly having that, hey, can we talk, type thing. And sometimes he's not ready. I mean, we just recently had a situation where I'm like, I think we need a conversation. And he would rather not, and that's fair.
Kind of because I said my piece and
he said what he had to say and he was done. And I'm like,
I'm ready to move on.
I think we should talk about that. I think we should have conversation. And he's like, I think we're done. And I'm like, isn't there more to it though? I mean, is that all there is? I feel like there's some, deep, in-depth root that caused this problem. And it was very specific. It wasn't like necessarily like a blow up over nothing. It was very specific in a very small category. And so I have to trust Okay, because we've communicated for years, and he's not going to say nothing is wrong and lie to me. Okay, we do that early on in the marriage. Nothing is wrong, everything is fine.
Worst words a husband can hear is "there's no issue."
I was gonna say, I think that's more of a girl thing, and guys are like, no, I'm okay. Like, let's move on from this.
That could be.
And then I would keep bringing stuff up, and I'm like, no, but it's still bothering me. You know,
surely you're bothered.
You know, and so that's something I had to work on, is letting it go and knowing if he's saying I'm done, like we're good. But if you keep talking about it, then that's gonna frustrate me.
Yeah.
You know.
But then there are also the times where, again, being a couple, we may be done with it, but if you're not, that means that, well, we still need to resolve something.
I think you learn each other.
Yeah,
Over years, you learn each other so well and understand each other and where they're at. Michaela can read me like a book. Like, you know, when I walk into a room, she can tell me more about me than I probably know about myself. But it just comes from years of growing and learning each other. But I think when we come to those points, like, you just have to be honest and say, this is just really how it is. And I think over the years you grow and realize that a healthy marriage, a marriage that doesn't have any open books, but everything is closed and sealed and ready to go and shipped to the next thing, nothing's left open, makes your marriage so much better. Like, there's so much more joy in your relationship, so much more peace in your relationship. Your household is more calm, and it's more enjoyable, honestly. But having something left open all the time, they always have something lingering, and you know that, and you can tell by how they talk and how they act, and you just know each other. You know what I mean?
Well, I want to go back to something that you said that is huge and key to a relationship, is being honest. I mean, you have to be honest.
Right.
And it's sad that so many relationships don't understand that. Well, I feel like if I'm honest with them, then I'm going to hurt them. Love sometimes does hurt, but that's love also. The Bible talks about God doesn't necessarily keep us from harm because he knows that in his love, if everything worked out perfect and there was no struggle, then that wouldn't really drive us to love him more. And it's the same thing in a relationship.
Seek after him, ask, him to help.
If we're not honest with our spouse and we always think everything's perfect, then there's nothing to drive us to strengthen that relationship.
Well, and that's what I said about prior. If that's your relationship and everything is hunky-dory and you have a perfect life, and then something major happens,
It's going to destroy it.
You're gonna realize how weak that relationship is almost instantly.
Yes.
So, like, nothing can expose a relationship or a person in their situation than a devastating situation.
Right.
Like, I remember, like, I feel like our relationship was built from tragedy, because it seemed like every year we had something going on with the flood, and then we've had multiple miscarriages, and then there's like some other things that happened, and I'm glad that we were as close and open with each other as we were, and we were strong enough to each other, but it exposed a lot. Like, in those dark times, I mean, I learned more about our situation and how we are in our relationship in those situations, because it just shines a light on everything.
Right.
So 100%.
And it's amazing how that also leads you to, like, with each, I hate to say that each trial got worse, but it kind of feels like when you look back, for the first 12 years of our marriage, I feel like was just kind of leading us up till being able to function and be strong in his cancer journey, which we call our cancer journey, and then having our second child all at the same time, and it's amazing, because then I look and I think, this last almost 12 years has been such a different set of 12 years than the first 12. You're like, oh, it's not like every year it gets worse. It's really God was preparing us for this major thing that was going to happen in our life, and so that we could then become what he needed us to be today. I mean, 23 years in the making.
100%.
12 years in the making, whatever it takes.
I think it almost not to that extent, but there was a situation where like I feel like everything that happened in our lives drew us so close to each other. And then I go up to the mountains for a leadership retreat, and I come down and we have 2 children. And instantly.
I remember that.
And I look at it and I'm like, okay, let's do this. Yeah. And I feel like when we had all 3 children, we had a newborn, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
Yes.
I think those are some of the most strongest times in our relationship. Like, we were ready for it, and it didn't affect us negatively to the point to where it just tore us apart and stuff like that. But that was a major life change.
Oh, yeah.
Instantly.
Literally
overnight.
Yeah.
Like, I came down from the mountain, right?
Rah, cheering you on. Unbelievable. Like, seeing the miracle unfold.
Yeah, but I think that's just growth, and really, it's a testament to putting time and effort into your marriage. And you just got it. Like anything, you got to maintain it. You got to put effort in it. Not quick to wrath and anger. There have been times where we say stuff. And we're trying to swallow our tongue before we say it, but it just comes out.
Especially when you're stressed. When I'm stressed, I'm very short, and I snap. And I don't just snap. I'm like snappy. And so my girls get it, my husband gets it, and then I like hold it in for everyone else as best I can. And then now it's at the point where as it's coming out, I hear it now.
Right.
So I know that that's a growth, but it's not stopping me yet. So it's like, no, we still got lots to work on, But I do recognize a look from him. And it's not like it's not a bad look. It's a look of just like, careful, babe.
Yeah.
Be careful. Like, with our girls, be careful.
Yeah.
With him, he's like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Everything going all right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%. And I think that's, like I said, with the testament of that when you grow and you put a lot of effort into your relationship, you learn each other and the mannerisms and how they look and how they're feeling. You just know. And there was points where like, I'd be upset with something or something like that. Michaela would just know that I'm upset. Like, there's tells, but like even if you hold it back, they can still tell that something's wrong, and there's limits and stuff like that. And for me, I like it's usually just a lack of sleep. Honestly, I do too many long nights doing stuff for some kind of job or work or whatever, and then I go a week with very little sleep, and then I'm tired and more cranky and more angry, and then something will happen and I'll snap. But then you gotta have humility. You gotta realize that this relationship, it's only as strong as you make it. And I feel like if you're not feeding into that strength and you're not trying to fix mistakes and fix things that might be a minor fracture, but you leave it unattended and you never attend it, you never throw any apology towards it, you never associate like any guilt or not guilt, but own up to it at all, that little fracture, it can crack and it can get bigger if it's left unattended. It's like Arizona cracks in windshields. Like overnight, that thing could, you won't have a windshield. But I had to learn that and just come with humility. And I'm one of those people, like I say it and I instantly regret it. So I'm like constantly saying sorry right after. But that's not necessarily as genuine as really thinking about the devastation of what you just said. Going in prayer and speaking to God about it and just taking it to God. And then I finally come to Michaela and just give her my whole, I feel like, and you can talk, I feel like that says so much more. It's a genuine sorry.
Right.
You can say stuff all day long and then oh, no, sorry. Little guy does that all the time. Makes mistakes and then you realize he's not getting candy and then he's going to say sorry instantly. He's not sorry.
Right.
He's just sorry in the moment because he realized he did something wrong.
Yeah, I got caught.
But being genuine and humble and swallowing a little bit of pride. Pride.
Out of the side of his morals.
Yeah, pride. Yeah.
I think just realizing if we look at our spouses like God looks at them, that
That's
stops
good.
a lot
Preach.
before it even comes. You got to love them like Christ loves them. And
Yes.
Yeah, we learned that
It-
in VBS.
it gives you some more
Yes.
patience. Yeah.
We're reminded the
Vacation
last couple
Bible
days.
school. Thank
Have
you, kids.
patience, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
How would you like to be forgiven? Are you, we're so quick to anger sometimes that we
are.
don't look at the other's perspective on things.
Yeah.
And, but then when it comes to us, like, why are you mad at me? I didn't mean it like that,
Yeah.
But when it's them, it's easier just to point the finger. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, such good stuff.
We love pointing fingers.
We love.
It's just part of us, human nature,
it's never my fault.
It's never.
It's
Yeah,
Eve's
It's
fault,
always
right?
you.
It's
Our kids taught us. When you point your finger, there's 3 pointing back at you.
Yeah.
No.
And they're like,
I've
so we
heard
point
that.
like this now.
yeah. Madison
told
was like
you.
6,
I
and
told
she was
you,
like,
yeah.
"It was Savannah. It was Savannah."
That's funny.
With an open hand, I'm like, "Don't slap her." Oh, I wasn't. I was just pointing.
Yeah,
at her.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, a part of our survey, some of the responses at the end, we just asked, and then we had so many responses, and it
Yes,
was
it was
wonderful. But we did ask, like, share an important lesson you have learned in your marriage or your relationship. And I thought it would be cool if you guys are okay with it. I would just share a few things that other people have said, just to wrap us up.
Yeah.
Would that be cool?
100%. Sure.
Okay, so first one, and I really like this one. Michaela and I were just talking about it before we started. Arguments are never intended to have a winner. They are always a misunderstanding that just needs to be clarified. Both spouses should win in the end.
Right.
I thought that was so
100%.
good.
Yeah.
That was really good. Another one, I have control over my part in a relationship. I do not have control over my partners.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
There's a few things that I can think of off that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one. The unhealthy relationships that were modeled to me as a child do not define how I have modeled my relationships today. At best, they have shown me what not to do and what to be cautious of.
100%.
Yeah. And then this one also was another favorite of mine. Silent expectations, which we talked about.
Yep.
Silent expectations are dangerous expectations.
Yeah.
And then it takes us into another one. I think these two people may have been talking because the next one was, no one is a mind reader. Communicate. Don't get bitter over something that hasn't even been said.
Yep.
That makes a
Stupid.
lot of arguments right there.
I'm just like,
Uh,
holy
it's one of
macaroni.
those diamond in the rough statements that just
Right, and you're like, oh,
Ditch in the
I
heart,
see
yeah.
it. And then the last one, and I thought this was good for male and female. Whatever you're doing, lead it with grace. This is the person that you love and you trust. Don't be quick to judge their intentions negatively.
yeah.
I was
100%.
just like, oh, that's really good too.
Yeah.
But just a lot of ways, and we just literally tipped the top
Yeah.
of the iceberg,
Might
right?
have to have a part 2. Or
Yeah, they won't ever
They
come.
won't do it. We'll have to do different.
We'll have to ask someone else to come. We can talk about you guys while you're not here, right?
We'll
No.
be back.
Yay! Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's
Thank
been
you
awesome.
both so much.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate LCI podcast.
You can listen more on our Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel, LifeChurch Presents, for more future content.
Again, thank you, and we'll see you next time.